everyone, I'm delighted to launch the ausEE virtual show and want to thank Free From an Allergy and the virtual show sponsor Coles for making this event possible. It's an Australian first, with us bringing together members of ausEE's Medical Advisory Board and specialists in the field and our charity ambassador Eddie Wu, and of course we're going to share some allergy-friendly recipes too. So thanks everyone for joining us this week, and I hope you enjoy. In the spirit of reconciliation, ausEE Inc. acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So today is also day one of National EOS Awareness Week and our Top 8 Challenge Day, which is ausEE's major fundraising and awareness campaign that helps make our medical research grants possible. This year, we are celebrating 10 years of these important awareness initiatives, so an extra special year to be able to bring you this virtual show. And we thank everyone for getting involved this year with our Top 8 Challenge. In my presentation today, I will share the story behind ausEE, which is our personal parent-patient journey, and an overview of who ausEE Inc. is, what we do, and where we're headed in our mission. So who is ausEE Inc.? Founded in 2009, ausEE Inc. is Australia's peak national support and patient advocacy organisation representing Australians living with an eosinophilic gastrointestinal disorder. We are a registered Australia-wide charity whose mission is to improve the lives of those affected by EGIDs through providing support, evidence-based information, resources and campaigning to raise awareness and funds for further research in Australia. Our outreach extends to individuals, families, health professionals, hospitals, peak bodies, government, stakeholders and the community. EGIDs are complex allergic inflammatory disorders characterised by eosinophilic infiltration in the gastrointestinal tract. The most common type of EGID is eosinophilic oesophagitis, where the infiltration is found in the esophagus. This inflammation can lead to scarring and narrowing of the esophagus, putting patients at risk of food impactions. Endoscopies with biopsies are the only way to confirm the diagnosis, but it is more involved than that, with symptoms, pathology and clinical presentation taking into consideration. EGIDs are chronic diseases that require ongoing monitoring and management and can have a significant impact on quality of life. In EOE, the prevalence has increased from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1 to 2,000 people and rising in the 11 years since ausEE's foundation. There is no cure and more research is needed. This week, you're going to be hearing a lot more information about EGIDs, and please, if anything raises questions for you, it's important to discuss with your treating specialist. ausEE receives no government funding and is run by a small team of dedicated and passionate volunteers. This is our volunteer management committee, and which I'm the president of. We have a medical advisory board, which is pictured here, and we want to thank them for all their support through these years. All have been on a volunteer basis. Now I'm going to share with you a summary of our 18-year journey living with eosinophilic esophagitis. So this is Bella when she was a baby. She was born in July 2003, exclusively breastfed her for the first 6 months, and then at 4 months of age she just began to, what they said was, fail to thrive. At 5 months old she was 5 kilos. We introduced solids at 5 months of age, and then she did develop some eczema patches, which I didn't even know were eczema back then, but allergies weren't something that were really considered at the time. So our path to diagnosis was quite a complicated one. We had, after a year of multiple visits to 2 child health nurses, 3 GPs, 2 paediatricians, we were finally referred to a gastroenterologist, and at the time they suspected celiac disease. And in January 2005, endoscopy was performed and Bella was diagnosed with EOE at 18 months of age, and that's exactly what it was. It was eosino what? We'd never heard of it at all. After diagnosis, Bella was prescribed elemental formula because of her failure to thrive as well, being a factor, and which she started to drink orally. We were referred to an allergist and she was placed on a 9-month waiting list. On her first skin prick test, she reacted positive to egg, dairy, soy, wheat, fish, banana, corn and nuts. So at the time, those foods were removed from her diet, some because she had experienced reactions to when we started food, and some because we were starting the journey of trying to find her EOE triggers. But it's important to note there was not as much known about EOE as there is now. So skin prick tests have been happening each year for her, except for recently because of her age. She's now 18, and she has both EOE and IG immediate allergies, so it just adds an extra complexity. But this, as you would know, is not uncommon. Being diagnosed is the end of a very long journey and the beginning of a new one. So we were under the care of a gastroenterologist, allergist and dietitian with visits every 3 to 6 months. Endoscopies were performed every year to check on the status of her EOE, and we had a period of trialling corticosteroid medications. Bella continued to fail to thrive due to her insufficient intake of formula and food avoidance that she had developed. It was very particular about the tastes and effort it was to eating. She was did quite a bit of regurgitation at that time. Temperature, texture, everything had to be just right, and she still is actually like this today to some degree. At age 3, Bella did have her first severe allergic reaction to contact exposure to egg, and that was through like raw egg of a meringue on the kitchen bench, which she had touched. So milk and egg were at that time considered to be her risk of anaphylaxis foods, and she was prescribed EpiPen, and we had an anaphylaxis action plan put in place. Bella started school, and it was the same year I started ausEE, so that was in 2009. She continued to drink her Alimenta formula to supplement her limited diet, and the teacher aid was such an amazing support. We've also been managing her asthma, rhinitis, eczema, and she has anxiety disorder. This same year, I realised Bella may not outgrow it, and I was feeling so isolated and frustrated. That's why I started ausEE online support group and the website for EOE. So this is Mercedes and Henry. I met Mercedes in an online support group when Henry was just a baby. He was born in 2008 and he had been diagnosed with EOE in 2009. Together, Mercedes and I built ausEE to what it is today. She actually put her doctorate on hold through all the early years of ausEE, but she did get it in 2019. So I'll be forever grateful for all her support, especially through those early years. It just wouldn't be what it is today without the support of all our volunteer committee, and some of them have been with us since the very start. ausEE is a fully volunteer-run charity still, and for me, it's been a labour of love for over 11 years. As the years passed, Bella's allergies were on the rise. At age 7, she had a severe allergic reaction to fish. This is actually an airborne reaction to cooked fish in the house because she had never actually eaten fish because we knew she was allergic, but at that stage, she wasn't severely allergic, but then everything changed and she became anaphylactic risk allergies to fish as well after that airborne reaction from the smell of fish being cooked in the house, which was quite scary. Her management of EOE was ongoing and she was having yearly skin prick testing for her IgE-mediated allergies. She was drinking her formula, but she continued to be failing to thrive. She just wasn't drinking enough of it. Our dietitian was one of the biggest supports through these years. At age 7, the big decision was made, and Bella was part of that decision as well, to get a gastrostomy feeding tube. So she didn't actually have a nasogastric tube at all because we knew, given how underweight she was, that it would be a medium to long-term feeding tube placement, and she didn't have a peg placed either, just because of the complexity of the surgery for her with the placement of how the feeding tube had to go. So that was another challenge for us at the time, but Bella did get her feeding tube, and it was the best decision we ever made, to be honest. So this is Bella living with the feeding tube. We actually have very few photos of her with the tube because she was actually at the time quite embarrassed about it. And we have lots of photos of her with a pump walking around, but not many with the actual feeding tube in it. So at that stage, she was fed overnight, a litre overnight via a pump, and she was finally thriving. She put on 8 kilos in the first year, which was amazing. She was growing well, but she still, because she was fed at night, she still just lacked that energy at school because she wasn't eating enough at lunch times, and she didn't want to drink the formula orally now that she had the tube. So it was a complicated time still for us, especially around school. At age 10, she also developed a new anaphylaxis allergy to chicken. So she actually used to eat chicken several times a week. She was one of her favourite foods, to be honest. And then one day she just started reacting to it, and she ended up developing anaphylaxis risk allergies to that, as well as we believe it did become an EOE trigger for her just because of the sort of reaction she was having when she was eating it. So Bella continued to see a psychologist and psychiatrist through this time, and she still does see psychologists regarding her anxiety disorders. She has food aversion. She attended SOS feeding therapy, group sessions with her dietitian, speech pathologist, and occupational therapist. So we'd started therapy just to try to help her build up being able to eat more because she was obviously dependent on the tube. So we'll fast forward now to the tube weaning process. With the energy that Bella now had from being tube fed, she started cheerleading, and she just loved the sport and competitions, and it motivated her for the start of tube weaning, because she was finding it harder to do certain stunts she wanted to do with the feeding tube was limiting her. So she'd outgrow her corn and wheat allergy, which opened up her diet, and actually years later she also passed an oral food challenge for peanut. So at age 12, her feeding tube was removed, but she continued to drink her Alimenta formula, and she went back to drinking that up until age 14. So where are we now? So Bella is no longer at school. She finished school at age 16. School was a struggle for Bella socially and with her health. Having a lot of days off for sickness made it very difficult over the years. We actually did try year 8 with distance education, but that wasn't a right fit for her either, and she decided to go back to mainstream school, and she finished school after year 10 and then went on to study photography at TAFE. That same year, age 16, she did transition her care to an adult gastroenterologist, and she's had a clear endoscopy last year showing her EOE is still in remission. So she continues to manage multiple comorbidities, including allergies at risk of anaphylaxis to milk, egg, fish and chicken. She has experienced a few anaphylactic reactions in the last recent few years, but her EOE is doing really well, and this is a combination of her current medications and the diet, which is a vegan diet by her choice, that is working really well for her. She's now 18, she's a passionate wildlife photographer, and she volunteers for ausEE as well and looking for work. This was just an insight into our complicated journey, and which, as people know, living with an EGID, no two stories are the same. So thank you. So now I'm going to share with you about what ausEE does. So actually, we pride ourselves in our transparency and reporting. And so we share detailed information in our annual report each year, which many of you may have read before, and through the ACNC register. So it's actually a good idea to look up any charity you are supporting on the ACCN register. So I encourage you to look us up. And today I'm going to share an overview of what we do. ausEE support networks include online peer-to-peer Facebook support groups, groups for teens and young adults. We connect kids with kids, virtual support group chats via Zoom meetings, and face-to-face support group meetups for individuals and families living with EGIDs. We support the feeding tube community through our Feeding Tube Aware website, and we share stories. We have support options there, resources and links. We also support the allergy community through our Australian Allergy Friendly Finds page on Facebook and Instagram. So here we share foods, products, places, resources, recipes and tips to help people on their journey living with EGIDs and allergies. And these pages also support these allergy friendly businesses because we don't charge for this. This is a free promotion. We just want to let people to know what things have helped us and might actually in turn help them. So ausEE is a source of credible and evidence-based information. Including through our website, we've got monthly newsletters. We have newsletters for health professionals as well. And we are very active across all our social media pages. We aim to help people recognise the symptoms of EGIDs and to improve diagnosis timeframes. We exhibit at medical conferences to distribute our patient resources and to raise awareness for EGIDs to health professionals. We distribute free patient resources, and these include EGID medical information brochure. We have fact sheets, patient information folders, information cards and flyers and posters. We've published 3 children's books about living with EOE. We have hand knitted dolls, and they're by volunteer knitters, and we donate them to hospitals and clinics for kids undergoing endoscopies or surgery for an EGID. We also strive to increase public awareness and understanding of EGIDs, the appropriate management options and disease impact to reach more people affected who may not yet have a diagnosis, so they know the questions to ask their doctor. The awareness raising campaigns we do include our National EOS Awareness Week, which is this week, and our Feeding Tube Awareness Week, which is in February. And we also support many related awareness campaigns like Rare Disease Day and World Allergy Week to raise important awareness, especially when there's so many comorbidities as well. We share member stories, media articles, and actively engaged across all our social media platforms. So ausEE advocates for the eosinophilic community by participating in government consultations and parliamentary inquiries. We make submissions and recommendations to improve health outcomes and for timely access to effective treatments. We advocate on a range of health matters and issues including rare diseases, genomics, allergies, and chronic diseases. We are committee members and stakeholders in projects, working groups, and collaborations with consumer and patient organisations and other peak bodies. So we're very passionate about our work in the advocacy role, and we just help achieve our mission to improve the lives of those affected by eosinophilic disorders. ausEE funds medical research projects that aim to improve the diagnosis and treatment options for people living with EGIDs. We funded our first research project in 2015, and we continue to do so every year. Support for our fundraising campaigns like our Top 8 Challenge help make our research grants possible, so we thank everyone for getting involved each year. We support research projects, surveys and clinical trials, and we are proud partners of Join Us and EGID Partners. ausEE conducts member surveys and with the aim to understand our members' lived experiences, and we use this to shape our research agenda and advocacy work. Medical research takes us one step closer to a cure, so something we're very passionate about, and thank you again to all our supporters for making what we do possible. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about where ausEE is headed. Over the years, demand for our services and resources have continued to grow. However, sadly, despite our continued efforts, we remain unfunded and unsupported by the Australian government. We continue to provide all that information, services, resources and support for everyone, and this has been from the very start, as we strongly believe that there should be no obstacles for people to access what they can to help them on their journey living with an EGID. Being 100% volunteer-run charity, not having this government support has made it difficult, as we're reliant on our fundraising efforts and the generosity of our supporters and donors. So what are our future goals? Key objectives on our agenda include a diagnosis pathway, EGID in EOE clinics and hospitals, standards of care guidelines. We want to expand our support services, and that means to all eosinophilic-driven diseases. We want to increase our reach to rural, regional, remote areas, develop more information resources, increase community outreach and awareness, and also to health professional education and awareness. And our biggest obstacle in achieving these goals is actually our sustainability funding. So how can you help? Well, you can help make a difference by volunteering for ausEE. That'll help strengthen our capacity, reach and impact so we can achieve more of our important goals and support our mission. So please, I ask you, do reach out and register your interest. If you are interested in joining our volunteer team, I'd love to hear from you. There are lots of opportunities to suit different interests and skills, and I promise you'll have a bit of fun along the way too. So how can you stay in the loop? Well, are you receiving our e-newsletters already? You can subscribe to them on our website if you aren't already. And we actually also provide a quarterly e-newsletter to health professionals, where we share research publications, upcoming conferences, patient resources. So if you're a health professional and not receiving them yet, you can please go to our website and register for them as well. These are links to all our social media pages that you can follow if you'd like to. Please do. And our website and how you can get in contact with us. So why are we here? We all live in hope for a cure, and through this journey we are on together, we are here to help make a difference. We aim to reach all individuals, families and carers of those with EGIDs, and to help them receive the appropriate information, optimal care and support they deserve. Donations we receive help us to improve lives affected by an EGID, particularly by funding vital research and by providing the much needed awareness, support, information to families, friends of the community like I've outlined here today. We are thankful for our supporters and sponsors and members and donors who support us in our mission. Together, we can make a difference. Thanks everyone for listening today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the ausEE virtual show this week.